this course outline is not the one we're using this term. We've had to change that completely for distance learning, so don't even bother to look at that one. In our content though, you'll see the one that we're using. Now, we have all of your documents here that I need you to have. And I don't know if you've been able to go on in here and take a look at everything, but the course outline is here. That's the one we'll be using. And this one, preparing for class, you see, you get this window when you come here. You can't use these links to go to the videos. What you have to do instead is download it. You can download it from here, because there may be times when you want to download something. So it's at the bottom here.
There's also another way you can do it that's a little bit easier. But I copied it and then I pasted it in went to YouTube and pasted it, and it goes to the actual video.
It will take you to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see all of these videos. Now I've got a lot of warm-up exercises for you. Now here's this little document that I would really love if you could do this. Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you're interested in. Now you can just delete this. I think you have to download this as well to fill it in. Plop your picture in here and tell me what your name is, the one on your documentation, and the name you'd like me to call you. That's going to help. And tell me where you're studying from so that I know who's in a different time zone than us and how far you are away. Tell me a little bit about your drawing experience in terms of perspective. If you've never drawn before, that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. And if you have a lot of drawing, then we can think of ways to spice up the exercises a little bit for you. About your interior design styles, if you have a favorite. It's time now to start thinking about that. And there's a whole list of them that I've given you. The list really isn't complete because it doesn't include cultural differences. So for example, there's Scandinavian, but then there's Scandinavian chic, and there's rustic, there's country, but there's also French country. So when you're looking at cultural emphasis, and then there's Indian drama, that color, and so Asian, you think beyond just Asia, you think all of the little aspects of Asia, not just one big chunk. So not just Southeast Asia, but all of it. You can think about that. And Spanish Revival, all of those. So the list leaves out cultural differences, and if you want to include them in your choices, then you can think about that too. And why it's important for you to know this is so that when you're working with a client, you can be aware of your preferences and not impose them on a client who is completely different in terms of their taste. And listen very closely to what they're telling you. And when you listen very, very closely, some bells will go off. You'll say, okay, they're very much into industrial. I just know it. They're talking about wood and metal and chrome and clean so you know, you can say, okay. So you may have to offer alternatives to them that are maybe more within their budget or more practical. They may be showing you things they like. That's where drawing comes in, because just showing pictures, it's a mishmash. But when you sketch for them and show them in their amount of space what you plan to do for them, they become involved, and you make sketch after sketch after sketch. And they don't have to be beautiful, trust me, they just have to be enough. And they become involved, and you get more from them, you get more information from them, and then you might end up in a completely different design style. And not that you can't pick and choose from and blend styles, you can blend styles, but it's really great to know that their overriding taste falls within modern, and for example, and maybe a little bit of something else. So it will really help build a relationship. And then knowing a little bit about what you do in your spare time, that will be related to your art life, I'm sure. So the things that you like to watch and to read and to share with people will be very important for you to be aware of if you haven't written them down before. And you'll know, you'll think, okay, yeah, that's really true. I do that. So, and now the last one, it's really mostly about COVID-19. If you're someone that's taking care of someone at home that has it, then that's going to impact your learning. If you get it yourself, God forbid, no one's going to get it. We know this. But if that happens, then you need to tell me right away, and we'll watch out for that. So anything that happens related to it, or you may be a parent homeschooling, that's going to interrupt your learning quite a bit. And it's not just me that will help you out with this. I take it to our coordinator, our Mary Libby, and we discuss it with Mary Jane Carroll, our associate dean. So that everyone gets to say what they think, and if it's a valid reason, then, and if it has to do with COVID-19, it's going to be a valid reason, and we'll decide what to do about this. So you've got our course outline. What's most important for you here is your learning outcomes. In this course, you'll be, by the end of it, we want you to be able to draw quickly freehand as accurately as you would as if you had a ruler, so that it's quick and fast. And when you're sitting with the client, you can talk your way through things and show pictures of what you're doing for that exact reason, that it's not going to be a scattering of pictures, it's going to be a cohesive message. This is the dominant feature in the room, and this is where I'm going to place things to balance things out, and this is how much space you have and how much it will tolerate. So that's the whole reason for sketching. And the idea too, that when you start to draw, you get ideas. You surprise yourself. Where did that idea come from? But you'll draw from that knowledge of your design styles and your cultural influences. You'll pull that in and maybe add something yourself that doesn't belong, but fits, just fits, and you know it's right for that particular client. And we're going to start very simply with our geometric forms, and we're going to turn those geometric forms into furniture eventually, and rooms, furniture and rooms. And concept sketches, that's exactly what I'm talking about, sitting with the client and just working it out and working it out. Now, this does take a lot of practice, but we've got 13 weeks, so we're going to do our best to get that going. But that's only the beginning. You need to be at this all the time. So I recommend you get a little sketchbook. We're going to have a sketchbook, actually. We have a lovely big sketchbook, and we're going to do all our work in there except for the last one. And we're going to work mostly freehand up until when we do our final assignment. So so hopefully that will begin the habit of keeping a sketchbook and working. You can get little ones to carry around with you all the time and make little notes wherever you are. When I'm watching a movie, I often see the most incredible interiors. Oh, they're just so beautiful. And the way things or colors are put together. So it's really good to have them beside you all the time so you can make little notes. Again, being aware of your taste, what's your inclination. Now, you think of Sarah Richardson, most all of her pieces, and I'm probably doing her a disservice, but aren't they very calm and neutral in color, and not exactly modern? She gets into some a little bit antique things as well, but they're all very much in a similar vein. But if you look at someone like Candace Olson, she'll take on anything, the most elegant space or the most earthy, down-to-earth space. So, and I think the people that are drawn to both of those designers are coming to them because they have one has a strong style, so they go to Sarah Richardson because they like her strong style. But for Candace, they would go to her just because they probably like her energy and that she is very, very versatile and can read you the way that she can read a book. She gets to understand you quickly, I think. And she sketches, yay! She draws floor plans and she sketches, so I'm in favor of her. And then we're going to do one perspective drawing about a master bedroom, so that you'll have that practice of doing something more refined with rulers and so on. And then we have, now in terms of critiquing your work, as I think I mentioned, you'll have an opportunity between, we're going to break the work up within 2 weeks. So the first week you get that work going, and you can send me your work in progress and I can have a look at it before you put it in for marking. Then the next week when we work on the next step, you have one opportunity there as well to hand something in for me to look at for you. And we don't actually work in groups, you work singularly, but there's nothing to stop you from contacting a fellow student and sending work back and forth and talking to each other. That would be encouraged, actually. I think that would be a great idea. And of course, getting your work in on time and coming up with ideas. That's the thing that we need to be doing all the time. We have one exercise, a quick one, just to break the ice, that we'll do in our, we'll begin that next week. So please do the warm-up exercises from the videos so that when you come to do this exercise next week, you'll be ready to go. And we may not get to put it in our sketchbook. I don't think that we will, but we can put it on a paper and put it in our sketchbook. This is the way that when you do the warm-up exercises, you can put them in to your sketchbook as well. So we get that book all filled up. Then we have 3 more exercises that are worth 15%. And then we have an exercise 5 that's directly related to our final assignment, and it's worth 20 marks. And our final assignment is worth 25. So that'll bring us to our 100%. Now, this has been rewritten for this term, and they're not due at the beginning of class. I couldn't change this, but they're not. They're due 10 p.m., the due date. So for you, that next one won't be due until not next week, but the week after, before 10 p.m. at night. So hopefully enough time for you to get it photographed in daylight and so on. We'll be starting our new assignment, but you'll still have time to complete that last one if you need to. And if you are a week late with your assignment, then I have to, it's not even a week late. It's if you pass the due date, so up to 1 week. So that means if you're 2 days late, I still have to, or 1 day late, I still have to reduce it by 20%. And that adds up, so be careful about that. And if they're more than 2 weeks late, I can't grade them at all. And if you have a COVID-19 situation, then you need to tell me as soon as you can, or any other situation that's directly related to it. So I think you all have that message. And you have to tell me, if there's something happens, you have to tell me before the submission date to negotiate an extension. So it may be a day or 2, we have to see. And at that time, you'll need to send me your work in progress, what you've already done on the assignment. In order to get an extension, you need to show me that you have been working on it. And you can't resubmit your work. So also now week 6, something that's due week 6, you can't, it can't be handed in late, because at midterm, at week 6, I need to put together my, what's that called? I have to put together all my grades to see if everybody is at least at 60%. You can pass at the end with 50, but at the midterm you have to be at 60%. Otherwise you receive a letter telling you this, announcing this to you, and asking you to speak with me and figure out a way for you to improve your grade. And things that are due in the last week cannot be accepted late either. So that's a problem. Now, all of our work is going to be in a Dropbox, but it's not a Dropbox. It's not called that. It used to be called that. It isn't called that anymore. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. And you have to be responsible for getting it in the right folder, the right Dropbox. So if you send something in and it isn't, then it will be considered late. So you need to be very careful. And okay, a screenshot. Yes, you need some sort of receipt about this. And I do believe that when you submit something, you will get a notice that you've submitted it, and take a screenshot of that in case something happens. You know how our internet is being overloaded lately. Something could happen and it may not hit the Dropbox on time. We don't have in-class exercises, so don't worry about that. And we don't have tests. And submissions to the faculty mailboxes or office are not recommended. Yes, I don't, oh, that's not going to happen. We're not at the college, but there are mailboxes at the college and you're not allowed to use those. Okay. Okay, and the rest I can leave for you to have a look at. So we're going to do our course introduction today and do a little drawing. And next week we're going to start on our perspective drawing of interior spaces, furniture. It's all perspective. Everything is all perspective. But the last thing to know is that we're going to put together a portion of a master bedroom, and you're going to pick a design style then to work with. Okay. Here are the actual assignments. So week one, we don't have one, but I really, really encourage you to do the warm-up exercises so you'll be prepared for next week. Everything is logical. It's all one step at a time. And our final assignment will begin with a box drawing so that when we do our detailing, we just put a piece of marker paper over top and start our detailing. Essentially what we're going to do is draw and sketch and draw and sketch and draw and sketch until we get to that grid drawing, and then all of that sketching will have paid off when you start to apply your design style to a bunch of boxes and turn them into furniture. That's essentially what we're doing. We're working with 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective at the same time. This is our submissions policy. It's extracted from the, and in a little bit more detail, from our course outline. So we don't need to go over that, but it's there for you. And oh, this is so important. Your photography is going to be so, so important. You'll have to do the very best job. You just retake your photos over and over again until you get something that's exquisite, because that's where all of your marks are going to come from, that photograph. So use daylight. The best way to do it, get a great big window that's close to the floor if you can, or it's not too bad yet, we don't have snow, so you can go outside, but don't do it in sunlight. Put it in the shadow, and I think try a few ways and use your daylight. Now most of what you're going to be handing in will be outlined in black ink, so that's going to help a great deal, but please do light it with daylight. Stand behind your work so that you're not putting a shadow over your work. And don't use artificial light unless you can absolutely not help it, because it's very yellow and discoloring. And not that that's such an important feature because we're working black and white, but it does darken the whole thing. So it's important. If you have to do that, put one light on either side of your drawing. So you've got one light on this side and one light on this side, and let the light pour across. And then you stand behind it. And hopefully that will light both sides, and you should be good if you have to actually do that. And try to avoid an overhead light shadow. So if you're bending over it to take your photo with your phone, watch for that. Don't allow a shadow to get all over your drawing from you leaning over. And you locate the eye of your camera or your phone and position it right over the center and the width of your height of your drawing. Make sure to focus on what you're taking your picture of. Focus on that spot. Keep your phone level. This has always been the most difficult part. There's a tendency you want to see what's on the screen, so you kind of turn the kind of phone toward you. And that distorts your picture. We have to see that all four sides of your drawing are straight. So you compare them to what's around it. So that's why I was asking to include just a small portion of the surrounding area so that, not very much, just a little, because we want your photo as big as possible. And we want those four sides to appear straight, because I'm marking perspective, and if your lines are angled, I don't know if that was uh, deliberate or just the camera angle, so do your best. This is not going to be easy. Expect to do this over and over and over until you get a good one. There is such a thing called cam scanner. Is there anyone familiar with that? It's actually pretty good, and it helps you to keep things straight. I think you can straighten it in the program, and it scans it. It kind of does what a scanner does. So you might try downloading and working with cam scanner. Also, it will make it a PDF. Eventually, these have to be PDFs, and I'll explain that later. And if you're using a white floor, you might have to put something colored underneath it so that you can see the four edges of your paper and judge them as straight. This will go for your drafting too. When you're doing your drafting, you have to do all these steps. You have to be really careful. And I don't know if they would want material around the surrounding or not. You could ask your instructor, but you have to get those really, really shockingly straight. And check for sharpness before you submit it. That's very important. And when you open your image, if it opens sideways or upside down, try to alter it so that it opens the right way. You can go up to your bar at the top and look for view when you open your image, and you might have to rotate it horizontally or vertically. That you can do. In a Mac, I don't know about a PC. And please rename your file by using your first and last name as well as the name of the exercise or the assignment you are handing in. If it's not too late, if you could do that for the document that you're going to hand in this week about yourself, if it's not too late, you could get in the practice. And that's another reason why I wanted you to do that. I wanted you to get some practice uploading. And I'll show you how to do that. And everything has to be combined in one PDF. Now, this is probably one of the trickiest aspects of the whole thing. So start looking at that now. Put that into your search engine and figure out with the computer that you have and the software that you have and everything else, how are you going to combine maybe a couple of JPEGs and maybe a Word document or a PDF? How are you going to combine them all into one? Because that's how the SLATE Dropbox works. If you don't, I can't see them. I can't look at them. I can't navigate around them. So it's tricky. Word documents work fine. They seem fine, but everything else has to be a PDF. In a Mac, how you do it is you you open up in preview, and in view, you ask for thumbnail view, and you'll see a panel that will open up on the side of one of your documents and one of your images. And inside that, you start dropping your images, and they'll all line up in this thumbnail view. And then you export that whole thing as a PDF. So that's how to do it on a Mac. I'm not sure. And again, it depends on your computer, and it depends, you can't do it on a phone. Cannot do it on a phone. It depends on what your computer is and all of the rest. So start thinking about that now, because that's going to come up quickly. This is fun. This is our architectural lettering. Everything that we draw, we're going to label it. We're going to put a border around the edge of it, and we're going to label it. Now, in your drafting class, they're going to teach you a beautiful way to do this, a beautiful, beautiful way. But you can just look at these and draw them. You don't have to put all those lines in, although I think a line above and below the type is really a good idea because it cleans it up. But you can look at some of these. I kind of like this. I like these angles. I think they're snazzy. So I always use this one. And this one's kind of cute too. The whole thing is kind of a little bit on an angle, except for some of them. So you might choose one that you want to play with for now. And then in drafting, they'll show you the more formal way of doing it. I think it's one of your first exercises. Okay, here we are. We're at our design styles. So we have traditional. That's, I think we all know what that would look like. Lots of wood and lots of detailing and a little more ornate. But then, you know, that has a large range to it, but you recognize it when you see it. Modern is clean, and someone who submitted their paper said they love modern because it's very calming. And I think that's very true. And contemporary, very similar, but there are little differences. Transitional, I've never been sure what that means. I think it's a little bit traditional and contemporary put together. It's beautiful. And I love mid-century modern. I think because while I was growing up, I saw pictures of my mother, and she was very young during that time. I loved her clothing and I loved the setting. I think it's kind of something a little bit nostalgic for me. Shabby chic is just fun, and on and on. So it's kind of like shopping. When you go on in and you put that into your search engine, especially if you're looking for a particular thing, it'll show you. For example, if you're looking for a chaise and you want to find one, I have no idea what a Scandinavian interior design chaise would look like. I have no idea. I have pretty much an idea of a French country one, and I would love that. An Asian one, I don't know. I don't know. So it's fun to go ahead and look, and please become familiar with them. And this will help you fill out your document, because there may be some on here that you weren't aware of. I think we've mostly been aware of all of these, but you never know. And that's all our documents. So this was content. Now we're looking at assessments. And what you want is assignments. Now, here is our document that you can download. And I think I have, if you click on this, you should be able to read a little bit of a summary that I wrote about it. But here you can download it, or you can download it from the contents, the SLATE contents. And you'll notice that it says not submitted. When you download it and fill it all out, you come back to this page and click on this. And down below, this is where you can download it again, good heavens. And you add a file. And if it's on your desktop, wherever you have it, let's add a file. And if it's in your computer, you upload. And it's going to my desktop. And I would pick it up, click on it, and this would become open, and you'd open it. Now, this is on a Mac, so I don't know if it's the same but I imagine it's very similar. You'd get the similar boxes from any computer, I'm sure. And then you come down and you submit it. Don't forget to submit it. And you can say something to me if you like. And then I'll fill out this similar box when I go to review it. And I'll have comments for you. And you go back and you read your feedback. It can be a Word document. That would be great. You can't submit it as a zip file or a Pages file or any other file, either Word or PDF. Under assessments again, you're going to be interested in this. This is grades. I've got all our exercises and our final assignment here. What matters are the points, because they all add up to 100. Management, you can check on your attendance. And you just click on here, and you'll see it'll show you whether you were marked present or absent. There's the week in between that's not counted. So between here and here, there's an extra week that we don't even see. You also have the class list. This is how you email me or anybody in the class. You can go to me, for example, and back up to email, everyone is BCC'd here, so I would just leave it. And you can change this, and you can write what you want to tell me. And if you're showing me your work, you can upload a file just like last time, and then you send it. Okay. And I check several times a day, so I should be able to get back to you pretty quickly. And see, you can email anybody you like, anyone on here. And you might get to know each other. That would be terrific if you got to know each other a little bit. You can chat with someone in IT. That's great. That would be terrific if you're having a little technical problem. They are excellent, and we have wonderful Mac techs. Let's do some drawing.